Are we already recording? All right. All right. All right. We're live, I think. Okay. So, Sarah, this is Off Script Podcast, not After Hours, because we had to scratch that for editing reasons. We wanted to keep the E off the posts.
Friendly.
Yeah. So this is going to be Off Script with Rick over here, which we're going to get to know each other a little bit. I'm going to count us in 3, 2. Welcome, everybody, to Off Script. We had a great conversation here with Rick, and I'm lying because I wasn't there, but you've already heard that because you've listened, and I'm just catching up. So I might say some stuff that it's not true because we haven't talked. I might talk to Rick like we've talked to my father, which really hasn't been a lot recently anyways. But Mike, why don't you bring us in to Off Script? Tell us a little bit about what we should talk about.
I can't believe you're leading off with dad issues. I think that's a little bit too deep for Off Script.
It's hard to call them dad when they're Irish. That's all.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Rick, in between, I caught John up. I was telling him a little bit about our conversation, and that's how we ended up talking about the mentorship stuff and potential opportunities. And it's just so cool. There's so many different things. So one question I have for you. In the main episode, we talked about it a little bit, but I want to expand on it. You talked about, opportunities for students and how this platform, maybe has some opportunities and that likely will evolve and offer more. But let's say I am, a university. I'm the University of Miami. I don't know if they have a PA program, and I have a PA program, and they just cannot find a psychiatry mental health rotation site. So would the University of Miami then be able to go on and say, we're looking for mental health clinical sites for students, $750 per student, and then, use your platform that way?
No, that's not something we have right now. That's not our niche. That's not to say that, there are employers and doctors who maybe don't mind being a preceptor. So at least it's a way to reach out to them. It doesn't cost anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I maybe should have mentioned in the podcast. There are gigs. It's just kind of fresh in my mind now. There are gigs for healthcare students.
Right.
And what I mean by that, there's some businesses that they would strongly prefer somebody who sort of pursuing a career in the healthcare industry. They have a certain personality to it, and so they don't require a license, but they want somebody like a home companion or somebody that can show how an iPhone works or something to that effect. So and they have a need for someone like that. So rather than advertising and spending money on ZipRecruiter or somewhere else, they can just post those gigs. It's always for free for employers. We don't charge any money until the match is made. And actually not even just the match, until the terms of the gig is made. And we just charge, our revenue model is just like Airbnb, we just charge a booking fee. So that's how we make money. So there are gigs, and I think there's going to be more of them as students kind of populate this side of the marketplace, because it's hard for me to market to potential employers or somebody who's willing to pay money to a student if I don't really have any of them on the platform. So, but another good thing for students is just, like I said, I would like for them to get to know the platform, know how to use it. So the whole idea, what motivated me with students, and I've presented to a bunch of them, is that, look, as soon as you graduate, even you may not even have a license, but you already, can do something, it's the fastest way, in my opinion, to get some money coming in the door until you get credentialed. And, we discussed it may take months to get credentialed, especially for the first time, until you get all the Medicare numbers and everything else. So, and then it's entirely up to them. If they want to continue doing some side hustles, that's fine. If not, then it's okay.
We've got a new hire, a PA in our clinic who just graduated in May. And in New York, everything is still super backed up with licensure because of COVID.
Yeah.
So she is so frustrated. She's working at Olive Garden as a server. She's like, I've worked years to get my master's degree, to get my PA degree. I have, 6 figures of debt, and I'm waiting tables at Olive Garden getting yelled at because the Alfredo is cold. So yeah, like an opportunity like that would just be perfect, where she's a PA, she's graduated, she's obviously highly trained, and yet is still just waiting for paperwork to go through, where gig work might be or probably is going to be better than serving at Olive Garden. No offense to Olive Garden.
Because historically, what I see, you still do get paid, pretty well. You paid at least the market, if not more, because it's just a temporary thing. So like a PA nurse practitioner can easily make $200-300, for a gig, and it doesn't have to be in the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
So it all depends. And I agree. I know a few people that are waiting for their licensure. They're just driving Uber, on the weekends and evenings until they get their credentials.
I saw someone on Facebook on a PA group. I think I sent it to you, John. They said, "Hey, we're looking for non-clinical job opportunities."
Mm-hmm.
And someone said, "Drive Uber." It's like, what's the average hourly rate of a PA is what, $60 an hour at this point or whatever. So are you kidding me? You're going to tell them to go drive Uber? There's so many more opportunities out there, but I think maybe this platform is needed in that sense because they just aren't aware of what's there.
Well, I can tell you that in my industry right now, you have multiple pharmacists who have 3 jobs. They'll be working for some big box retailer or some big hospital. They'll moonlight somewhere else, and they will work for some crappy big box retailer just to pay their bills at this point because tuition. And so it's strange for someone like me who came out and got a 40-hour rate away. Most of these people in pharmacy industry, at least, are starting at 32 hours max. Some of them are getting out for 20. And put in a flex role until something opens up. I see it all the time. So my question though is if you have a student or say even someone like me who doesn't have a lot of background outside of hospital, some specialty, maybe some retail, outpatient, and I want to do some medical writing or I want to evaluate some drug information. Would something like this in gig work be an opportunity for someone to say, I know I have this skill. I haven't been able to try it out full time, but I want to see if my work is accepted. And 2, maybe I do good work for this company and they say, do you want to stay on for a week, a month? Something different than just shadowing somebody for a day.
Yeah, I think actually you got it, John, because there's no question there are gigs out there. It's just that people have sometimes hard time to finding them, like reviewing literature.
Right.
Pharmaceutical companies, they're almost like required for their data to be reviewed by an independent pharmacist or a clinician. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I call gig friendly, assignment. Again, I don't know what to call a job. Mm-hmm. Okay, where they don't want to advertise on Indeed or ZipRecruiter because they're going to get inundated with a number of people, especially if it's a remote type of a position. So I wanted to create like this, a portal where people can just go. It doesn't cost them anything. They post it, and then they can pick and choose, who they want to have because the people have been matched. So no question. I think this is like I told Mike in the beginning. I think the gig economy specific to healthcare is just in its infancy. Uber's kind of like made changed the world of gig economy and just sort of is the ultimate, gig platform.
So, well, that's amazing. It really is amazing. The first time I heard of Tinder, I was like, why don't we do this for healthcare? One day, check it out, see if you like them, no commitment. And show off your skills, and if they like you, they'll maybe take you out for a second date, right?
As far as my mentality, look, if anybody's out there has a specific skill which is very unique to them, it's just a matter of a little bit of time and effort to capitalize on that. Because if you have some special knowledge, then there is some demand for it. People just need to know about it.
John, this is a good opportunity to remind you that your wife does now listen to the After Hours, so. Before any further conversation about Tinder comes up, she now has the RSS feed. So
I said I heard of it, and it was from those kids that I work with. I don't know. It's on some sort of web device in their hands. It looks like a calculator.
Rick, I've got a good gig work story for you. So I was thinking about it after the podcast episode. Best gig work I've ever done, and not on your platform. Obviously, this was just separate, but a medical education company reached out to me. They needed peer editing. So they had slides that were created for a previous medical conference, and they were repurposing the slides for a conference that was directed towards PAs and NPs. So they wanted a PA and an NP to both separately edit and review the slides to make sure that the content was appropriate for the audience. So they paid me $300 per slide deck and estimated that the work would take about an hour. But, and there was, I think, 5 or 6 slide decks that I looked at, and it was basically all I did, because the work was, quality work. So I didn't have to go through and double check references or anything like that. All I had to do was go through and say, this needs more, expansion because PAs aren't going to have the same level of pharmacology understanding, whatever. So it took, I'm not going to name the name, so I won't blow myself in, but it was like 20 minutes per slide deck. And I got $300 per slide deck, because it was supposed to take me, I think, an hour to an hour and a half per the contract. So in maybe an hour and a half, I made $1,500, and they loved it. Like, I was a little bit worried. I was like, are they looking for more? Maybe I didn't do it right. And they thought the work was great. And I actually built a relationship with them, as John said. And I ended up presenting at a conference for them down the road because we had built that relationship. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's really the exciting thing about this is it allows you to dabble. It allows you to maybe try some stuff that is not in your expertise, but something that you want to, pivot or shift your career towards. This gives you an opportunity to do it with relatively low risk.
Can I ask a question then about that? So, because we like to have guests on and just talk a lot and hopefully not have you talk at all. It just have your name up there, So I'm going to ask you real questions. When you were starting this off, I went on the website, I was checking out the story, what I could find on there, and through your LinkedIn, and then Mike and I were talking. We discussed a lot about trying to find that next idea, wondering if we jump into a field, are we going to be successful in it? That's why we do the types of gig work. But as we were younger, most of us were probably thinking about inventions. I could invent something for this or that. I just want to make a lot of money, so I want to invent something. But when we get older, people say it's not inventing something that comes to your mind. It's finding what's necessary and fill the gap. And for years, I would think, okay, I just need to talk to more physicians. What in their practice is wrong, or what's the biggest problem? But never following through, because I just felt like, who am I to ask these people? They've got companies everywhere to figure out these issues for them. But you get to that point where you're able to fill the gap. But that's just how I view it. I'm not sure if that's everybody though, because maybe this has been in your mind for a long time, and you just really wanted to build a platform that connected folks, or was it simply you were sick of A, B, and C, and so entrepreneurial, you're like, I know I can fill this gap. I did it in small ways to start with, got successful with it, and sold it off, or something like that.
So let me actually.
Oh, he has to boil things down for me. This is
let me boil it down to a question. But part of the reason I'm jumping in, John, is not just to undercut you, but also because we talked a little bit about this on the main podcast. So, Rick, in the podcast, you talked about clinically kind of the path that led you to this company. But what I want to do is I want to take John's question. When did you make the realization that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Because obviously you had the staffing agency prior. You now have this. So you have that entrepreneurial mindset. You have the mindset of just, I'm sure, constantly churning and trying to find those inefficiencies in the marketplace and identify the need. How did you build that mindset? Did you have it before you went into medicine? Was PA school a path towards entrepreneurship, or when did you decide that you wanted to become an entrepreneur?
That's what I said, but
clearly.
That's a good question.
It's all John's.
My question.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to really think. Nobody asked me that before. I think I wanted to be an entrepreneur after I became a PA. A little bit of my background. The truth is, I was the youngest in class. I really got lucky. I got into PA school and this was like, late, mid 90s. But the average age in my PA class was, I think, 40 something. Back then when PA was kind of,
Right.
it was like a second profession. We had chiropractors in my class. And I was just like this 20-year-old kid that just got lucky. I was a good student, I had a good GPA, but I had almost zero experience. I just kind of volunteered in the emergency room just so I
Sure.
could put something on my application. So, and I lived luckily nearby. So I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do really. Kind of knew that I was probably going to be in surgery because I kind of like how body functions work and how the organs look, etc. So, but I think the realization was sometime after I graduated, and it has never changed since then, is that there's nothing wrong. I have total respect for anyone that wants just a regular job with the regular
Hmm.
benefits, come to work, and when they're off work, they don't worry about it. They spend time quality with their family, etc. When you're entrepreneur, you're pretty much on all the time. And I've been, I've been for years, because when you're not working, you kind of like being on call in case somebody calls, or I had a terrible time saying no, because if somebody would call me for potential, work, surgery or whatever, it's like, now I have to make a decision, and very quickly, do I want to take it so I can make a couple of $100, or do I just like say, no, I'm going to watch, Seinfeld, so it's not an easy decision, but it's always on. So I think what finally did it is, and I know it's a mathematical fact. There's only, if you work for someone, unless you really climb up in some corporate ladder and spend 50 years doing so, you have a capped capacity. There's only so many patients you can see in an office, or you can only so many surgeries you can do, so many visits, and if you're compensated based just on your productivity, you're a human. There's only so much you can do. The only way to achieve a certain level of wealth or independence is to have a business. And it's not, and I'm being totally transparent, I wasn't really motivated by money. It's like I never said, okay, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to, I think I mentioned in the podcast. I mean, we immigrated to the United States. I was extremely poor. We lived in a mobile home for like I don't know how long, and and I was eating, macaroni and cheese was my favorite, lunch and dinner. So I think what I was motivated more, and what eventually turned into the entrepreneurial spirit, is I didn't want to be limited into some kind of capped income. So that's why I figured, if I start any business, I wasn't necessarily focused on uh on healthcare. I do have a true story, actually. Is you probably gonna you love this. So
It's story time. This is what this is.
this is a real story, and I'll tell you how far I actually took it. So I'm a big fan of crepes, like blintzes, crepes. I've been making them myself since I was like 7, 8 years old, and now I can make one with each hand. And then when I was right around the PA time when I graduated, I was having a job, but I already was thinking like, okay, I want to have a business, a side business. And back then, Taco Bell was just like kind of starting, growing, and I like Mexican food. I went to Taco Bell, it was great. And I already knew that, this must be really good business, because what does it cost to make a taco? 25 cents, and you can sell it for $1, $1.50, whatever. They had a 99-cent menu back then. So I figured, what a genius idea. I have a healthcare background, but I also want to have, like a Taco Bell franchise, so I can make tacos, make good money, get paid in cash, and you name it. So long story short, I actually called the Taco Bell. I ended up working at a Taco Bell. This was before PA school, obviously. So, but I knew how the restaurant business worked, and I decided that when I make some money, I'm gonna buy a Taco Bell franchise and have a restaurant. So, because one thing that definitely recession proof is anything with healthcare and food. People, they gotta eat and they always get sick. So back then I thought about it, and I did a whole calculation about how much it costs to make something, and then what I can sell it for. But anyway, I didn't, and I even found the location where I'm going to have my restaurant. And then when I ended up speaking to I don't know, like corporate Taco Bell headquarters, they said that whole state was already taken by some big, I don't know, some business guy or whatever. So I was this close and actually owning a Taco Bell franchise, which I don't necessarily regret it. I figure I can always do something, later.
It's like a childhood dream come true.
So
I
yeah.
believe Taco Bell is now the number one fast food chain in the
Well,
US. I think. I
yeah,
think it overtook McDonald's.
I didn't know that actually.
I
So
don't quote me on it, but I
yeah,
believe it is the number one. So yeah, imagine what it could have been.
Uh,
I know.
I do remember going to India and I was in Hyderabad, and
Wow.
it was the wildest thing that I saw at McDonald's there. So naturally I ate there, and everything was vegan. Go figure, and it all tasted of curries and the turmeric and the card. It was wild. So my last name is McDonald. I wanted nothing to do with
Mhm.
it.
So
So Rick,
yeah.
I have another question for you. I just thought of it as you were talking. So
Uh-huh.
my primary clinical job, I'm not salaried. I'm eat what you kill. So
Okay.
productivity based, and then obviously I do a lot of consulting on the side. So because of that, I feel like my time, the value of my time, is really easily defined. I know if I consult, this is how much per hour I can make because I
Hmm.
can, pretty much get gigs anytime I want, doing speaking, things like that. So the hard thing that I have found with that is it's very difficult to watch Seinfeld, take time to, unwind or do things like that, because it's like, oh, well, instead of watching Seinfeld, I could go do this and I could generate $300 an hour.
Hmm.
And so how do you feel? Because it sounds like it's a similar thing, especially early on for you when you were still doing a lot of the staffing and the surgical first assist. Do you feel like you were able to find a way to kind of balance that constant desire to work when you knew, hey, if I watch 3 episodes of Seinfeld, this is going to cost me,
Hmm.
$500 in lost revenue because I could have gone and done a case.
Hmm. Yeah,
How did you find that balance?
I didn't. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Because whether you want to admit it or not, in the back of my mind, I
Mm-hmm.
was literally on 24/7 because
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I gotta tell you, it wasn't just about go and make some money. I also felt almost like an obligation. If a surgeon called me, he needs help. I gotta service them because at least when you're in the surgical assisting business, I don't know about others. I would often ask myself, what is my number one competition? Because when you're in business, you have to know your competition, period. And my number one competition was anybody that the surgeon would hire as their employee,
Mm-hmm.
because then they don't need independent contractor to fill in the gap.
Mm-hmm.
So I always felt like I have to be there for the client, for the doctor, whatever, to basically disincentivize them from hiring their own person.
Mm.
So, and that so it wasn't just, okay, yeah, it's great, I'm going to make money, but a lot of times I've done things for free because I just would never get paid because of the insurance or you name it. But I found myself, constantly, being on call for my own doctors. And as it grew, yes, I had, by the time I sold the business, I had a bunch of employees and independent contractors that I would reach out to, but I would still be the one who would be getting the calls all the time, including the weekends and evenings. A hip fracture came in at 6 o'clock at night. By the time they get cleared, it's 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, and then basically I'm the one who's getting the call. Can you be there in the morning, or case starts at noon. So, in any case, so it's sustainable, but not for long, especially if you want to have a work-life balance, or you have a relationship or kids. So for a while it was okay, but then I was getting to the point of getting mentally burned out, not so much physically, but mentally. And I thought, well, I gotta, change something. And that's how sort of I ended up. It worked out really well because I developed, the software, what turned into Health Gig Jobs, while I had my, staffing company. I pretty much developed it for it, so I could manage my people easily and almost, try to automate as much as possible. So when I had an opportunity to exit the clinical side of it, I sold the company, but I kept the software because I paid for it. I self-funded it. So, and then the light bulb went off. Look, I can just go and basically modify the code. Not me personally. Obviously, I'm no IT person, but I know people who can do it. So I would just modify it in such a way that rather than having an enterprise version that manages workforce, I'll just make it available for anyone that wants to work in healthcare and do a gig, and have the right matching. And we just had to build a whole new payment functionality. I don't want to get too technical, but like I said, one of the key things is that nobody ever wants to, invoice person and then chase the money and wait, so we also have a payment processing on the back end of it once the gig is completed.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, that I did peruse a bit of the website, and I'm going to sign up, but I want you to know that these types of conversations that we find very valuable. We have people on that we believe in and what they're doing, and this is the type of help that I'm going to be pushing on to other folks. Free advertising, because now we're talking about how you guys view business and having to be on. It's hard to say no. And I'm trying to find that balance too. It's very difficult to say no to people, especially when it's a new opportunity. And I'm finding myself saying it more and more, which is either I'm leaning too hard into it or I need to adjust things. But there's also the passion side of things where people have lost some of their passion, and just working for somebody else will sometimes spark that again, or change something. Whether they leave or not, it doesn't matter. If this can help people become more passionate what they're doing, that's enough for me. But I like money too, so that's a good reason.
Money's good.
I gotta tell you something, because I'm passionate about several things, and I mentioned it before that I love to empower people to have their dreams come true. And it wasn't my original plan, but because we've launched and I'm talking to a lot of people, I realized something that, but if somebody wants to start their own business, literally just have that spirit, but they're either afraid or they're not sure where to even begin. I realized that now, technically, if there's a gig worker, right, that's doing gigs and, is well skilled, and if they would have experienced what I did when I started as just working for myself as an independent contractor and surgical assisting, it's just that there was so much demand that I just, called my friends, hey, can you cover for me? I didn't want the money. I just wanted them to cover and please the doctor so they can call me back. And I realize now that I already have a couple of people that have registered on the platform as a worker and as a business. They started their own LLC. They're still doing their gig, but because they're starting to grow, they don't know where to hire a person. They don't want to, again, advertise on Indeed or ZipRecruiter. It costs a lot of money and you get inundated with, some of them are fake, etc. So they basically now looking for gig workers on the same platform, but would they log in as a business profile and I tell them, and I encourage them to do that. I mean, that's what I love, entrepreneurs and I tell them, look, use the gig workers until you get enough volume where I can even help them, calculate where it makes sense to hire somebody on a more part-time or more permanent basis. And then just have it as your backup. As you keep growing, use the gig worker as a bridge, so to speak, and then hire them full-time. And that's how I grew my business. I was successful in it. And that's how you can grow your business. The only difference is that I was only limited to surgery. You can do any business you want. You want to start a telemedicine company? By all means, go ahead. You want to start a consulting company in healthcare? Go ahead, do it yourself, learn the thing, then register as a business, find a gig worker, and keep growing.
And it's funny too, because it's actually reducing waste in the healthcare system in a sense by funneling all those funds to the actual employee, the worker, or the gig worker, instead of wasting time through HR, advertising, and interviewing how many people or even training. It's just like simple things like this it's going to change a lot of the healthcare system, financially at least.
That's what I'm counting on. Yes, and just like in any business, you have your competition, you have people that love you, and you have people that hate you. I can tell you, well, I guess it is being recorded, but I'm still gonna say it anyway.
Yes.
The people that absolutely poo-pooed, like I said, this shit will never work, are primarily healthcare recruiters. And you know what? I respect them for that, because some really smart ones, they see that the platform like Health Gigs, and I'm not just talking about my company. There's a bunch of other companies that I know that basically kick the recruiter out as a middleman and do the direct connection. and it's threatening to them. So now there's no question, just like with Uber, there's still limo companies. Uber didn't take out the whole entire limousine industry, right? So there's still a place and time for recruiters, and they are valuable, particularly in the locum setting. But yes, I think that at some point, as the gig economy grows and the platforms like Health Gig Jobs and others in a similar space will grow and kind of gain more popularity, I think there's going to be less dependence on recruiters, because they do charge pretty good, a lot of fees.
Right.
And like I said, I'm focusing not even on hospitals. Hospitals have, a lot of big budgets, but, small moms and pops or private clinics or doctors, they don't have, 10, 20,000 to pay to a recruiter, especially with somebody that, they don't know they're going to get somebody good quality candidate. So, so they rather try out a platform like Health Gig Jobs or something else before they really commit to spending so much money on the recruiter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. I'm so excited. I'm similar to John. I'm gonna get off here and sign up. So big thing I'm looking for, Rick, just in case you want to shift anything my way, is I want to do more medical malpractice stuff. So just in case you see anything in New York, you send it my way. But
yeah, but we're not in New York yet. But that doesn't.
All right. Well, I'll be ready.
No, and actually, I'm gonna be selfish right now. I'm gonna take the opportunity. Yeah, I'm being honest. We're not in New York. We just launched recently. We're pretty much in Florida and going to Texas. But I tell everybody, especially on LinkedIn and as I talk to sort of like a national audience, I said, look, I'll be honest with you. If you register tomorrow, I mean, I can tell you, Mike, you're not going to see a gig because we haven't even started marketing. Mm-hmm. But on the back end of the system, just like any normal, tech marketplace platform, we collect a lot of data. Mm-hmm. And if I see that there's you and maybe there's others who are sort of looking for a similar type of a gig, we're going to have a flash saying, look, we've got these unique people in New York that are eligible, want to do, malpractice or chart reviews. Well, that gives me a signal to funnel my resources, my marketing resources, to the type of employers that would want to use your services. Because at the end of the day, we want to do the match and we want to collect our booking fee. I mean, we are a business after all. I'm not a philanthropist yet. So, so I always encourage everybody, to just register so we know that you exist. And once we see a hot pocket in some metropolitan area or specific specialty, we will have the financial resources to market specifically to a demographic of employers that would want to have matched with that type of worker. That makes sense?
It does, yeah. So I think that's the takeaway is let's get on the platform. If you build it, they'll come.
That's right. Yeah.
We'll wrap it up here. This was so much fun. I can't believe. So between the two episodes, we've now spent over an hour and a half talking about it, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface. So we need to revisit this.
I did tell him that I did say a couple, damn shits when he told me everything we talked about already. I'm like, God, this is.
I know you missed a good one.
Yeah. Well, maybe again in the future. I mean, I know it's going to grow, so if you'll have us, of course.
Yeah, you might get too big for us, so we'll have to keep us in mind when you get big and famous.
I appreciate that. No, I look forward to a follow up. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff coming up in the pipeline. I was taught by my business professor, don't announce it until it's a fact. But yeah,
stoicism. Let's go.
So yeah, there are a few things coming up, and you'll definitely be on my preferred list because you gave me this opportunity. So love it.
Wonderful.
Really enjoyed talking to you guys.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Like I said, we'll be in contact. I'm sure listeners are going to want to keep an eye on this. Hopefully sign up, but at the minimum, track your progress because I think this is just such a disruptive and exciting opportunity in healthcare.
Yeah, I would. I mean, honestly, if anybody's on LinkedIn, I definitely would encourage them to follow Health Gig Jobs because we sync our national press releases with the company LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm. So they'll be literally the first to know about some major things that are coming out that nobody done it before.
All right, we look forward to posting it on LinkedIn, and we'll be sharing it to all of our groups as well when we post the podcast too.
Sounds good.
Cool.
And live with passion.
I love it.
All right. Talk to you
later.
Later.
Everyone,
thanks,
thank
Rick.
you
so much.
All right, bye.